On Vikings, let's win this game.
The closer we get to training camp, the more interesting things become in Minnesota. The Vikings are suddenly being connected to veteran pass rushers. New questions are emerging about Jordan Addison's future, and Harrison Smith's next move continues to keep the entire fan base guessing. Some important decisions could be right around the corner, and they may have a bigger impact on this season than anyone expected. Ever since Minnesota decided to move on from Jonathan Greenard, there has been one question that refuses to disappear. Can this defense generate the same kind of pressure without taking a step backward? The organization clearly believes Dallas Turner is ready for a much larger role, and to be fair, he gave fans plenty of reasons to believe during his first full season as a major contributor. Turner played more than 700 defensive snaps, consistently pressured opposing quarterbacks, collected 9 sacks, forced 4 fumbles, and flashed the explosive athleticism that made him such an exciting investment. The talent is there. Nobody doubts that. The concern isn't really about Turner himself. It's about what happens behind him if injuries hit or if the workload becomes too much over a long season. That's where another familiar NFL name suddenly enters the conversation, because depth has a way of becoming a major storyline when the games start counting. CBS Sports recently suggested that Haason Reddick could be an intriguing fit for Minnesota, and honestly, it's easy to understand why. While his sack numbers have fallen over the past 2 seasons, they don't tell the entire story. Even while dealing with injuries last year in Tampa Bay, Reddick still generated consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Brian Flores has built his reputation on creating chaos with versatile defenders who can line up in different spots and disguise pressure packages before the snap. Reddick has experience playing in a 3-4 defense, which makes the football fit feel much more natural than some fans might initially realize. Of course, signing a veteran isn't simply about adding another body. It's about protecting your investment in a young defense that believes it can compete every single week, while giving Flores another experienced piece to work with if the rotation gets tested. Minnesota also enters this conversation with a new general manager in Nolan Teasley, and former Seahawks star Richard Sherman offered glowing praise about his work ethic and leadership after the hiring. Sherman described Teasley as someone who earned every opportunity instead of taking shortcuts, and that's the kind of endorsement that naturally grabs attention. Now it becomes a matter of whether Teasley decides adding one more proven edge rusher is worth making before training camp gets underway. But here's where things become even more fascinating. Maybe Haason Reddick isn't the veteran Minnesota ultimately targets at all. Another respected Vikings voice believes there's an even better fit sitting on the free agent market. Matthew Collar recently predicted that Leonard Floyd could eventually end up wearing purple and gold, and the reasoning goes beyond simple production. Floyd knows what it's like to play under Kevin O'Connell from their Super Bowl season together with the Rams, and familiarity like that can make a difference when a veteran joins late in the offseason. He has spent his entire career working as a 3-4 outside linebacker, which means there would be very little adjustment inside Brian Flores' system. Even though his sack total dipped to just 3.5 last season with Atlanta, it's impossible to ignore the consistency he displayed over the previous 5 years, regularly finishing between 8.5 and 10.5 sacks while contributing as a dependable veteran presence. That kind of experience matters when you're asking younger players like Dallas Turner to shoulder bigger responsibilities, especially if the Vikings expect to compete from week 1 instead of waiting for young players to develop. Minnesota still has more than enough salary cap flexibility to make another move before the regular season begins, though the financial side will certainly matter because Floyd won't come cheaply. The bigger question is philosophical. Do the Vikings trust Bo Richter, Chaz Chambliss, and the younger depth pieces enough to develop naturally, or do they prefer adding another proven veteran who has already succeeded at the highest level? It's a delicate balance between building for the future and maximizing the opportunity in front of you right now. One decision could shape the rotation for months. If this front office truly believes the team can compete deep into January, adding another experienced pass rusher suddenly feels much less like a luxury and much more like smart insurance. Quick favor: subscribe to the channel and join the conversation in the comments. Your opinion really matters here. While much of the off-season conversation has centered around the quarterback competition, another storyline quietly carries enormous long-term importance. Jordan Addison entered the league looking like the perfect complement to Justin Jefferson. His rookie season was electric, nearly reaching 1,000 receiving yards while scoring 10 touchdowns and showing exactly why Minnesota spent a first-round pick on him. Since then, however, the numbers have steadily moved in the wrong direction. Last season was especially disappointing by his standards, finishing with just 42 catches, 610 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. Those statistics alone don't tell the full story because quarterback instability certainly affected everyone on offense. Justin Jefferson continued producing regardless of who was throwing him the football, but not every receiver can overcome inconsistent quarterback play quite that way. Purple Insider's Matthew Collar believes Addison could finish this season with respectable production, but still fall short of earning the lucrative contract extension many fans expected just a year ago. That doesn't mean the Vikings are preparing to move on from him. The team already exercised his fifth-year option, giving Minnesota additional control beyond this season. In many ways, that gives both sides time instead of forcing an immediate decision. Still, expectations change quickly in the NFL. Addison also knows that off-field issues have complicated parts of his young career, including league discipline connected to previous legal matters. None of that erases his talent. When he's healthy and focused, he remains one of the most dangerous route runners on the roster. The challenge now is proving he can consistently perform at the level expected of a first-round receiver while helping whichever quarterback wins the starting job. If he puts everything together, this conversation could look completely different by the end of the season. If not, Minnesota will have some difficult decisions waiting down the road. And finally, we get to a story that feels different from the rest because it isn't just about football. It's about emotion. It's about legacy. It's about one of the greatest defensive players this franchise has ever seen. Harrison Smith remains unsigned after the Vikings designated him as a post-June 1st release, and fans continue wondering whether we've already seen his final snap in Minnesota. Former Vikings quarterback Kyle Sloter recently shared some interesting thoughts after speaking with Smith over time, suggesting that while the veteran may have mentally moved on in some ways, the competitive fire still exists. Sloter offered an intriguing possibility that honestly makes a lot of sense. Veteran players, especially future Hall of Famers, don't exactly enjoy grinding through training camp or preseason practices. They know the system. They know how to prepare. According to Sloter's perspective, Harrison Smith could simply wait, watch how the season unfolds, and decide later whether the Vikings are legitimate contenders worth joining for one more playoff run. Nothing has been promised. Nothing has been confirmed. But imagine what it would feel like if Minnesota starts the season strong and suddenly, number 22 walks back into the building midway through the year. That would instantly become one of the biggest stories of the season. Few players represent resilience, intelligence, and loyalty quite like Harrison Smith. Whether this chapter is over or there's still one final return left in him, Vikings fans will probably keep believing until the very end. This offseason keeps reminding us that championships aren't built through one blockbuster move. They're built through dozens of difficult decisions, patient evaluations, and moments where leadership has to trust its vision. Whether it's adding another pass rusher, deciding Jordan Addison's future, or wondering if Harrison Smith has one more run left in him, every storyline points toward the same goal: putting the purple and gold in the best possible position to compete when the games finally matter. Let me know which of these stories you think will have the biggest impact on the 2026 season. And as always, thank you for spending part of your day talking Vikings football with me. We'll be right back here as the next chapter unfolds. Stay tuned. Skol Vikings, let's go.